There's been more and more news about the COVID Omicron variant, or as Joe Biden likes to call it, the Omicron variant. And a lot of people are worried. We're hearing from Fauci. He's saying, we don't think it'll be that bad, but prepare for the worst. I've speculated I think we'll see hard lockdowns coming soon. And in many countries, we're already getting that. Germany, of course, announced mandatory vaccinations are being planned. There's going to be a vote on this, but they are locking down anybody who is not vaccinated. Now, of course, in Australia, it's probably the worst we've seen out of most countries. And I think it's fair to say China was a lot worse, literally welding people's doors shut and disappearing people, videos of people being dragged out of their homes. Rather nightmarish. In Australia, they've created several quarantine camps, the largest of which is the Howard Springs camp. Let's be fair and say they're internment camps because, well, many people got angry when I referred to it as a concentration camp. The true sense of the definition, sure, we don't really use it that way, meaning a place where a large group of people or individuals are concentrated because they're part of one group or another. Internment camps, people are being taken from their homes because they're suspected of having contact with someone who has COVID. Let me break that down for you again. In Australia, the police are going to people's homes and saying, we believe you may have had contact with someone who has COVID. Get in the van or else. $5,000 fine. Now, of course, when I pointed this out, I was immediately attacked by propagandists. In fact, right now in Australia, they're claiming white supremacists are spreading misinformation. Of course, they're not saying it's me. I'm not saying that. No, I was targeted by Quillette's Claire Lehman and Jesse Singal, both of whom are outright lying about what's going on. And I can only say it's propaganda. I can't tell you why. Now, on the screen, you have some hot babes. And Claire Lehman pushing a lie about the hot babes. Now, I don't think that Claire Lehman is the most prominent media figure, but she is the founder of Quillette. I believe she also formerly worked for Rebel News. I mean, these are anti-establishment outlets, or at least we assume, well, Rebel News is, we assume that Quillette was. But Claire has been doing seemingly everything in her power to make it seem like people are happy in these quarantine camps where they're being taken by force. The most egregious news and why this story is so important is that currently in the Northern Territory, Indigenous people are being told, this was announced by the Chief Minister of the Northern Territories in Australia, that you cannot leave your home even to get food. Now, he didn't say that specifically. What he said was the 5 reasons to leave your home are no more. You can only leave for medical treatment, emergency medical treatment. It used to be that you could go out for exercise, to see one of your personal contacts, or to do essential shopping. Now, no. You can't even leave to get food. The chief minister also stated that he would like to thank the Australian Defence Force, their military, for the personnel and the army trucks used to transport around 38 close contacts or suspects to this internment camp 300 kilometers away. This is fact, provable. I have all the sources and I'll show you. To then see Claire Lehman and Jesse Singal and many others outright lying along with the Australian government, it's very serious. We as an international community, whatever that means, whatever you think it means, should speak out against this. I'm not saying America should intervene or anything, but I'll certainly criticize the horrific actions being taken by the government. I'm not going to pretend that this is comparable to death camps or anything stupid like that. No, but we now have a witness. A woman named Haley Hodgson, who was taken there, even though she did not have COVID, was not allowed to leave, and was told that if she stepped foot off of her balcony, she would be fined $5,000. And then I'll show you how the propaganda machine works, how they're trying to cover up what they're doing to these people. And of course, Haley was able to film. Haley was able to get out of this facility after 2 weeks. Again, I'm not saying that we're at the point where they're killing people. But if you tolerate people being taken by force without due process, coercion, then it only escalates from there. This all started because I said it's only a matter of time before the camps they've built are used to take their own citizens by force without due process. And I was told by the likes of Quillette that would never happen. These were international arrival bungalows, but here we are. It will get worse. I believe the Howard Springs facility, maybe there's another facility I believe being built in Brisbane, set to be completed mid-2022, which is to imply they plan to expand this operation. Now we can sit back and ignore it, or we can at the very least speak out and you can be informed about it. Now, before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member to help support our journalism and our work. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive members-only segments of all of our shows. We just launched a new pop culture show, Pop Culture Crisis. If you want to talk about Spider-Man and watch movies, hey man, check that stuff out. It's really fun. It's a new show, a little rough around the edges, but we're getting there. You'll also be supporting all of our journalists, and we just hired a new journalist. We're doing a lot of important work. If you think this work is good, go to timcast.com, join by clicking sign up in the top right. But don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's get started with the first and very important piece of context. Why did I title this video, Hot Babe Exposes the Propaganda and the Mistreatment? Claire Lehman said on Twitter, just discovered that there's a Howard Springs hashtag on Instagram, and it's full of hot babes posing at what Timcast calls a concentration camp. And in fact, she did show many hot babes posing. I can't tell if they're smiling, they're all wearing masks, maybe they are. This is manipulation and propaganda, because we actually have this story right now. Now, the story is from Unheard, an interview with Haley Hodgson. Real Clear Politics backs up the story, writing about it. Inside Australia's Howard Springs COVID internment camp, you feel like you're in prison. They say Haley Hodgson, 26, moved to Darwin from Melbourne to escape the never-ending lockdowns, only to find herself locked up in a COVID internment camp without even having the virus. Now, I want to show you Real Clear Politics because there are many outlets picking up the story. It is confirmed and verified, and I even did some groundwork. Unheard actually reached out to me when I tweeted about this, wanting some clarification. It turns out this young woman was taken for 2 weeks to a camp, even though she did not have COVID, she says, as punishment for lying to the police. I did a little background, couldn't verify some facts, but they provided me with the information. And of course, this woman also has video from inside the camp corroborating her story, and boy, is it nightmarish. She lost her job. She was told she couldn't leave for any reason. She could leave to do her laundry. That was it. Exercise? No. When she said it was making her feel uneasy, they said, we'll give you Valium. Here's the story from Unheard. The hot babe, as Claire Lehman stated, this is a young, attractive 26-year-old woman. That's the point I'm making. If she wants to come out, Claire Lehman, and say, hot babes are all enjoying it, well, I found a hot babe for you. Actually, I'm sorry, Unheard did an interview, and boy, are they not happy with what's going on. Haley Hodgson, 26, moved to Darwin from Melbourne to escape the never-ending lockdowns, only to find herself locked up in a COVID internment camp without even having the virus. She's just returned from a 14-day detention at Howard Springs, just outside of Darwin. In an exclusive interview with Freddie Sayers, she recounted her experiences. It all began when a friend of hers tested positive. She recounts how investigators came to her home shortly afterwards, having run the number plate on her scooter to identify her as a close contact. They asked if she had done a COVID test, and in the moment she lied and said she had, when in fact she had not yet. This set in train an extraordinary series of events. Quote, so then the police officers blocked my driveway, she says. I walked out and I said, what's going on? Are you guys testing me for COVID? What's happening? They said, no, you are getting taken away and you have no choice. You're going to Howard Springs. You either come with us now and we'll put you in the back of a divvy van, or you can have a choice to get a COVID cab. I just said, I don't consent to this. I don't understand why I can't just self-isolate at home like a lot of other people are doing. And they said, we've just been told from higher up where to take you, and that's all that there is. This is how it begins. In World War II, in Nazi Germany, they didn't pull up to people's homes and say, everyone hop in the death car, because people being told they are facing death would revolt. They lie. It's a con game. You have to convince people everything is okay. That's why Claire Lehman is an evil piece of trash. Putting out this hot babes tweet, convincing everybody, what's the big deal? I've seen the photos of the hot babes. I'll have no problem going there. But eventually, you give the state these powers, they will do unimaginable things. Are they doing them now? I don't believe so. But if people feel, you know what, the government is pulled up with a divvy van or a COVID cab, you know what, I might as well just go. I've seen the videos. It'll probably be fine. And what happens? They threaten her. We'll keep you here longer. No due process. $5,000 fines. So here you are at the COVID camp, and you're locked in this little room. You can go out on the balcony, and they say, if you step foot off this, we'll fine you. Uh-oh. You've taken your mask off to have a sip of tea. And they say, you've just violated COVID protocol. We have to now restart your quarantine because you could have been exposed. Sorry. You were talking to your neighbor. They may be exposed. Time to reset the quarantine. Now you're there for 3 weeks. Why should we sit back and let them build camps where they're taking people without due process by threat of fine or coercion or imprisonment? 3 teenagers who were not infected with COVID escaped from the facility and were hunted down by the police. Do we sit back and just say, let it get worse? This all started because I said that it's only a matter of time before what's described as international arrival bungalows becomes citizen detainment camps. Because in the beginning, they said these camps are only for people who are arriving internationally and need to quarantine. Because if you're coming from somewhere else, we don't know where you've been, you got to quarantine. Started with hotels. And we said, that's fine. Then they said, well, hotels are a problem, so we'll do camps. Then they said, I said, that's not fine. They said, no. All these people like Claire Lehman, Jesse Singal, it's fine. It's just an international arrival bungalow, says Josh Epps of ABC Australia. Then I said, how long until you go to someone's house and take them? And they said, that is not happening, you conspiracy theorist. I didn't say it was. I said, how long until? Well, truth be told, it was only 2 months because now it is happening. So how long until they start keeping people there beyond 2 weeks? Maybe it won't happen. I can't see the future. But you see where it's going. She was ordered to pack a bag and was told that she could be released once she tested negative. Collected in the back of a rented van, she was then transported to Howard Spring. On arrival, she was told she would have to stay for the 14 days. You literally get put in the back of a golf buggy with your bags. And these people are in hazmat suits and everything. They don't want to come near you because they think you're infectious. And they literally drop you to your room and they leave you. They don't come and say anything. They don't check up. They don't do anything. You get delivered your meals once a day and you are just left. She was tested 3 times during the 14 days and on each occasion tested negative. At one stage, she was disciplined for leaving the confines of her cabin without a mask and was threatened with a $5,000 fine. On another occasion, she was told how she was offered Valium to calm her down. I've got videos of this. We'll jump to it. In the end, she says that she was told by the CDC that she was being punished for lying to the police. Now, a lot of people said there's no Australian CDC. And I questioned that as well. On Twitter, I said, I mean, this sounds interesting. I'm not going to blindly believe this story from this woman unless she can prove she's been there. She did have video from the camp, but she did say the CDC claimed she was being punished. I couldn't find any information about a CDC. Now, if you Google search it, you'll find many posts of organizations in Australia saying we should have one. Well, in response to this, Unheard reached out and said that this is confirmed. There are local CDCs, and she was likely referring to the one in Darwin. So I do have healthdirect.gov.au, Center for Disease Control Darwin. It exists. It is all publicly available information. There's the Northern Territory Center for Disease Control. So I believe that this is in fact correct. So I stand corrected on that tweet. It appears to be genuine. I want to show you the video. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and you need to hear how they were treating this woman and what they were saying. Jack Posobiec tweeted, wait, she's being held even after testing negative? Now that I get. Just because you test negative does not mean you don't have COVID. When we all got COVID here, we had 4 negative tests. I believe it was 4, maybe 3 or 4. So we thought we're all fine, probably just a cold. Within a few days, all of a sudden, we were like, whoa, this is really bad. It's COVID. Let me tell you, COVID is bad. Whatever I got, it was the worst illness I've ever had. At first, I was like, the flu is worse than this. And then it escalated rapidly. And I was like, wow, this is bad. Not everybody had that. Some people had the sniffles. Take a look at this video.
So what's the go?
So this, I'm going to give you a warning, yeah? It's an official warning that you have to stand above and obey the rules while you get, yeah? And that's, we have to go the rules again. I don't care.
So am I allowed to go to the laundry?
You're allowed to go to the laundry, but you've got to wear a mask, yeah?
Yeah, righto.
Yeah. And you definitely can't go up to fencing routes, but you're allowed to go to the laundry, yeah? That's always been the case, yeah?
Right, so if I was sitting just here, which is right near the fence, why are these guys in a cabin that's right near the fence? It makes no sense, does it?
Yeah, but you can't leave your balcony to go to the fence to talk to somebody else. That's just obvious, yeah?
So if I was at that balcony...
Have to make sense. So there has to be lines everywhere drawn, yeah? And one of the lines is you cannot leave your balcony and you cannot go to someone else. Where it makes no sense or it doesn't seem right to you, that is the line, and that's what the law is there, and that's how it goes, yeah?
The law.
Well, the show direction.
There's a law that says
show
that.
direction, yep, there's a show direction, yeah, and how the behaviour must be done, especially in this area, because it's much more highly infectious and likely to have infected people, yeah?
Highly infectious.
I want to pause right there and just point out, he says, you're in a highly infectious area. This woman has never had COVID in this instance. She tested negative. She was negative before she got there. She was negative before, during, and after. And they put her in a highly infectious area. Now, I don't want to play this too long. It's a little dry, but you get the point. In the video, he points out there's a yellow line on the ground. She can't cross that. You cannot leave, he says. You will get a $5,000 fine. She says, what about laundry? Yeah, you can go do your laundry, but you can't leave for any other reasons. It's literally there. It's literally happening. Take a look at this video. Let me play this one.
Or run like I'm in this little box and I can't move. Can I please, I'm anxious, I'm feeling not well, I need to get out. And they literally said, we've got a doctor calling you and we'll get some Valium prescribed to you that you can call us anytime you like and you can have Valium.
You can have Valium. A doctor will prescribe you Valium if you are getting cabin fever and cooped up because you cannot go outside. The propaganda being put up on social media by the likes of Claire Lehman, it's despicable. People like Jesse Singal just making up fake narratives. Now, to be fair to Jesse Singal, he wrote an article that was it's very cleverly worded to avoid defamation. He says people like Tim Pool and then uses my name. And he's likely using my name because for some reason I have been trending on Twitter. I have, my name has been trending to a low degree on Twitter for the past 4 to 6 weeks. So my assumption is that he just put my name in this and accused me of wrongdoing and pushing conspiracies because he wanted to write a piece that would generate traffic. Well, it's still despicable because he's saying that the things I've presented, all based on fact, backed up by NewsGuard certified sources, are conspiracy theories when I've got the receipts for literally everything. This is one thing I've been highlighting consistently. It's very important. I said, don't forget, if the chief minister says you can't leave your home even to get food, thanks the army for their trucks used to transport COVID suspects, and you get arrested if you try to leave the camp, Jesse Singal and Quillette say it's a conspiracy theory, sources in thread. In the first article, they say under the original lockdown, residents could leave for 5 reasons. Gunner has announced Binjari and Rockall residents now cannot leave their homes unless for medical reasons or an emergency. That means essential shopping is out. You can't even leave to eat. We have this from Grabian. Chief Minister Gunner, the army is now transferring positive COVID cases and contacts in Northern Territory, Australia to quarantine camps by army trucks. Fact. Stated by the chief minister himself. And lastly, from The Guardian, NT police arrest 3 people who escaped the Howard Springs COVID quarantine facility. All of my sources are available on that tweet. It's happening. It's not a conspiracy theory. The story was that 3 teenagers, 15, 16, and 17, who did not have COVID, had tested negative, escaped the facility. They were from the indigenous community. I don't know if they themselves were, and they were arrested. You ready for the propaganda? Let's see where it goes. Washington Post. U.S. white supremacists blamed for targeting Aboriginal Australians with coronavirus vaccine misinformation. Amazing. Premier Mark McGowan, whose state is home to the city of Perth, told reporters Thursday that groups did not have the best interests of Australia's First Nation people at heart and wouldn't be happy if bad outcomes occurred to them. He urged Indigenous people to listen to medical experts about vaccines instead. McGowan said he was made aware of misinformation by local leaders. A senior Aboriginal affairs official in Western Australia, Juanita Bartholomew, said some misinformation was coming from Facebook groups, including one that had a cover image for President Trump. Ooh. She also said inaccurate information is being relayed to Aboriginal communities and that the material was linked back to groups in the U.S., according to the Australian Broadcasting Corp. Interesting. Well, we have this from crikey.com.au. I don't know what this source is, but I thought it was interesting because it's an Australian source, and they say this. Anti-vaxxers are targeting Northern Territory Indigenous communities with quarantine and vaccine conspiracies. A combination of local fringe voices and international influencers are developing and spreading misinformation. They say, positioned in front of a giant Aboriginal flag, a group of First Nation people speak one after another about the Northern Territory's COVID-19 response. The eldest, wedged between the others in the middle of the couch, speaks briefly but generally about a need for unity and sovereignty. The next speakers are more specific. They rail against lockdowns, corporate tyranny, government, and claim that COVID vaccination programs are genocide. A 14-minute video of these speeches was posted to an independent news publisher's website on Wednesday, where it got 30,000 views in the 8 hours before it was removed. Another version, posted by an anti-vaccine Instagram account that purports to be run by Indigenous Australians, has 100,000 views and counting. I don't know who these guys are. I believe timcast.com did publish the video, and it's a video. These people are very clearly Indigenous. Crikey even says they are. And that's about the extent that we could verify the video, that it is Indigenous people in front of a flag saying these things are happening. I don't know if they are. I don't know if they aren't. Majid Nawaz, this is the guy who coined the phrase regressive left. He's a prominent radio host in London, also highlighted this video. Now, these guys may be totally wrong. The one guy in the middle talks about bioweapons and New World Order and stuff. And I think, you know what, maybe a little bit out there. But it certainly is Indigenous people themselves in Australia saying these things. Now, maybe they're getting their information from white supremacists or who knows, but it's besides the point. These people are here. They feel this way. I don't know why they feel that way, and it may be because they're the target of misinformation. Some of the things they said, like I said, seem a little bit out there. But most importantly, the issue is we know the government has taken Indigenous people by army truck to these camps. Which brings me now to the lies and manipulation of Quillette, an outback conspiracy. I would like to break down for you how propaganda works, how lies and manipulation work. What did I say so far in this video? Did I say that armed military were taking people at gunpoint? I didn't. I actually said coercion, threats of fines. But yes, by force. Like we learned from Haley Hodgson, they said, you have no choice. You can get in the divvy van or you can get in the COVID cab. And she said, fine. And she complied. In the article from Quillette, they play a very fanciful game. They say that American YouTube personality Tim Pool has taken to Twitter to raise specters of the Holocaust over a series of tweets this past week. Pool has blamed military trucks in Catherine for shipping people to concentration camps, referring to Howard Springs quarantine facility where some people have been isolated. Certainly, I did say concentration camp, and I can recognize a bit hyperbolic because, well, I didn't say Nazi death camp. I didn't say Australian death camp. I didn't say execution camp. Concentration camps in their original meaning were places where people were being concentrated for a particular reason. But we know, and I know this and you know this, and I'll be the first to admit, it does raise the specter of the Holocaust. If you take umbrage with this and don't like my opining or hyperbole, well, that's too bad. It's a statement of opinion. And yes, I was warning at the time that it's only a matter of time before people are taken from their homes to these camps, which is why I said concentration camp. Funny enough, AOC referred to the ICE facilities as concentration camps. And to be fair, I said, that's a little hyperbolic, isn't it? Well, people were choosing to come to the United States. These are people who were initially choosing to go to Australia and then being placed there. Fair criticism, I will be the first to acknowledge. I shouldn't be criticizing AOC for people choosing to come to the U.S. and being placed there if she's going to say concentration camp. And maybe it's a little hyperbolic. My point was, it was only a matter of time before they take their own citizens. So I'll do better next time. But a lot of people have agreed and said, well, they are concentrating people there. And now it's become a different story. The tweet in question that they took issue with was me saying, quote, authorities had identified 38 close contacts in Binjari, a number he said was likely to rise, who were transported to Howard Springs on Sunday. So I said, the Australian Army is now shipping people to concentration camps for contact with someone with COVID? That's a question mark. Meant to be a bit hyperbolic, to be fair. Did I say the military was doing it in this tweet? Did I say the police at gunpoint? Did I say anyone was being held down and force vaccinated? I didn't say any of that. I didn't. And here's what they do. They say he blamed Australians for the acquiescence and forcefully relocating Indigenous people. I mean, yes, they quite literally are. Here's what he says. There's no army here holding people down and vaccinating against their will. Nobody is being rounded up at the point of a gun. The army is not even carrying guns. If my word alone isn't good enough, you'll have to go quite deep down the rabbit hole to deny what Aboriginal leaders themselves have come forward to tell the media in the past few days. Did I say they were being held down and force vaccinated? No. Did I say that they were being rounded up at the point of a gun? No. Did I say the army was carrying guns? No. What I said was military vehicles. Pool has blamed military trucks for shipping people to concentration camps. Well, I didn't say it necessarily like that. It was a question. But we quite literally do have the story from Grabian saying just that. In this article, Chief Minister Gunner. Here's the source, Graben. You can see it on the screen. The army is now transferring positive COVID cases and contacts in Northern Territory, Australia to quarantine camps by army trucks. So let's break this down. That's how they play their dirty fact check game. Again, I will stress for the third time, I'll be the first to admit concentration camp is hyperbolic. But I don't like what the government is doing in Australia. I don't like they've escalated this, and I don't like the propagandists trying to argue that it's not really happening. The argument from Claire Lehman and Jesse Singal is simply that they didn't like that I said concentration camp. Sure, but what did I get wrong? My opinion, my statement, hyperbolic, fine. But what did I get wrong? The game they play is to then argue something I never said. I should call this the Snopes strategy. Donald Trump will do a perfect backflip off the balcony. And everyone will say, I can't believe it. Donald Trump did a backflip. That's incredible. And then to discredit this, Snopes will say, did Donald Trump do a backflip off his balcony in a perfect fashion, getting scores of fans to cheer for him? On Sunday morning. And then they'll say, here's the claim. Donald Trump did this and a big false. And I'll look at that and say, but there's a video of it. And they'll say, while Donald Trump, all the way at the bottom, while Donald Trump did perform a perfect backflip leading to much fanfare, he didn't do it on Sunday, nor did he receive applause on Sunday. Claim is false. But no one argued it happened on Sunday. I didn't say the military was pointing guns at people. I didn't say that they were holding them down and vaccinating them. That's not from me. You see what they're doing. I called out that they're taking Indigenous people against their will to a facility 300 kilometers away. And when they try to escape, they're hunted down and arrested. That's what happened. That's not reported by me. That's The Guardian. In order to dispel and debunk this, Quillette lies and plays a semantic manipulation. Here's Josh Zepps. He writes for Quillette and he writes for ABC, and he says, repurposing outback mining accommodation into international arrival bungalows is not the same as running a concentration camp. Concentration camps are bad because they brutalize political prisoners, not because they look ugly in aerial photos. Well, not all concentration camps, by hard definition, are brutalizing anyone, but I think it's fair to point out what he's saying. An allusion to the Holocaust where concentration camps, the colloquial term, does refer to that. Fair point. The only problem is these aren't international arrival bungalows. And my point was never that they were. It's that they would become what they're quite literally today. Internment camps for people who are suspected of having contact with someone who has COVID. No due process, heavy fines. It will get worse from here. Let's check out some of this propaganda. Mom Folding Laundry on Twitter, I don't know who that is, but said, who had Claire Lehman text Majid Nawaz for demanding a civil rights inquiry into Australia's placing Aborigines in quarantine camps on their 2021 bingo card? One person said, I didn't even have Australia becomes a police state in my card. And someone said, life's pretty rough in the Howard Springs concentration camp. And they show all these people smiling and laughing, no masks on, all standing next to each other. This is propaganda. How do we know? In the Candid video from Haley Hodgson, they say you can't leave your room. You can't take your mask off. None of these people are wearing masks. Now, to be fair, it may be a bunch of people who took off all their masks and took a picture. But some of these people aren't holding masks and don't have masks anywhere near them. One guy is holding a mask. This guy is holding a mask. This guy seems to have a mask on his wrist. This guy pulled his mask down. So it may just be they said, hey, let's all do a photo together. They all bunched up and did it. And it's in violation of the rules. Still, it's a false image of what's going on. In the next image, there's a guy swimming in a pool. I don't know if there's actually a swimming pool in this facility. Maybe there is. Sure, some people get to go swimming. Strange, though, that Haley Hodgson was told she couldn't leave her bungalow, so this seems to me to be fake. In the next image, here's a cute young lady, a hot babe or whatever. I don't know how old she is. Maybe she's too young. She seems a little too young. But here she is, looking off in the distance, not wearing a mask and stepping off the balcony. Who took the photo? Who was allowed to go near her with no mask on? Where's her mask? Reeks of complete BS. Now, this one seems real, to be honest. Two people sitting separated in their quarantine bungalows while they're having coffee and raising a glass, and they're drinking it while still wearing masks. That one does seem probably real, in my opinion. Now we have some real photos. Low-key Ray, ATL Ray on Twitter says, here's a peep at the massive Howard Springs quarantine camp that the Australian Army is now transporting people with positive COVID cases to. Well, I just want to give you a little, it's been, about 10 or so days. Low-key Ray, it's people who are suspected of having contact. It's not even people who are positive. Here you can see the full hazmat suit people walking around with their little cart full of food. You've got this image where a man is getting a nasal swab by people wearing full PPE. You have this image of the what appears to be barbed wire fences keeping you in. And then you have an image of the entire facility. Now, right over there, it looks like there might be a swimming pool. There might be a swimming pool. Sure. I'm not claiming that this is like you're thrown in the gulag or anything like that. I'm saying you give the government the ability to do this. You let them expand it. We know where it goes. Why? Look, they may have the best intentions. They may say, we really want to stop COVID. But these people don't want to deal with you. They don't want to protect your rights. They don't care if you're unhappy. They'll just give you a Valium if you're feeling bad. This is torturous. And let me show you this here tweet from Claire Lehman. Truly, some of the most despicable garbage. Now, you look. Claire Lehman used to be a prominent intellectual dark web figure. Quillette was seen by many as a great place to write, or to host people and present good ideas. At this point, Quillette is probably one of the worst of the worst. The devil you know is better than the one you don't. Is that the saying? I could be getting it way wrong. What is it? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Something like that. CNN. Well, we know they're full of it. MSNBC. Yeah. A lot of Fox News, pretty bad. Tucker's all right. Bill Hemmer's pretty good. And they've got some good news reporting with their opinion people. I'm not a big fan of most of Fox News. But to be fair, Gutfeld and Jesse Waters, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Not perfect. I don't want to, just play defense for all these organizations. Cool. That's masquerading as a pro-free speech, pro-freedom organization. Meanwhile, covering up how bad things really are for people in Australia. Hot babes, Claire? Hot babes? Well, that hot babe, Haley Hodgson, and I say that because she is objectively an attractive Australian woman. And Claire Lehman said that hot babes were look at this. Well, okay, we got a quote from one and you were wrong. This is where she goes. This is the game she plays. And you'll notice now that it's very much in line with what the woke cult does. She tweeted in reference to what happened with the mass tragedy in Michigan. A 15-year-old kid went on a killing spree at a Michigan high school. But right-wing Americans are more concerned with an imaginary Holocaust happening in Australia than they are with this tragedy. I guess life is cheap in America. Wow. That's an extremely distasteful and stupid thing to tweet, Claire. We're all concerned about mass violence. None of us like it. In fact, it's very prominent in the news, and we've talked a bit about it. She then tweeted, okay, I deleted this tweet because people in Michigan are telling me that they are indeed distraught, and it's unfair of me to generalize it about Americans in light of tragedy. I apologize. For those who don't know, the context is this. I'll also additionally point out right-wing Americans. Who is Claire feuding with? She's feuding with me, James Lindsay, and Maajid Nawaz. Maajid Nawaz is not an American. He currently resides in London. I believe he's British. He may have citizenship somewhere else, but I think he's British. He's a British citizen. James Lindsay is, I don't think right-wing. And if you're being intellectually honest about the facts, yeah, neither am I, because I'm still very much left economically and center-left slightly on progressive issues. The issue is right-wing is largely defined by what you think is true and what you think isn't. Claire Lehman referring to right-wing Americans is clearly a jab at me and James Lindsay, but calling us right-wing clearly shows where she finds herself on the political spectrum. Because anybody who's in the independent or liberty camp would not refer to me as right-wing. They call me left-wing. They call me a leftist. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-progressive tax. I'm pro-universal basic health care. Yeah, typically not seen as right-wing positions. But I also think that there is a different reality than many on the left do. Claire Lehman clearly falls in the liar category. And of course, this is where she takes it. You'll recognize this strategy because it's common among the woke left and the establishment left. She says, I've been receiving thousands of messages from angry Americans demanding to know why I am an apologist for a totalitarian state after Tim Pool and Conceptual James sicked their followers onto me. I disputed Pool's characterization of our quarantine facilities as concentration camps. To be fair, she did it one time. And then all I did was respond to her. But then she keeps responding. Claire, if you want to make it a conversation, don't get mad at me. if people see that conversation and then criticize you for it. I never told anybody to go after Claire. And in fact, since she blocked me on Twitter, I've stopped tagging her. Still, she's arguing it's my fault. This is not just happening on Twitter. Conceptual James, that's James Lindsay, and Tim Pool have sicked their followers onto me on Instagram as well. No, I didn't. I've not once tagged her there. This kind of harassment can lead to distorted thinking. And right now I am not feeling very good about Americans, but I apologize for the offense caused. What's my Instagram? I don't know. I posted a Howard Springs joke. And, okay, to be fair, I did mention her on Instagram. I didn't tag her. I don't even know what her Instagram is. Since she blocked me, I haven't tagged her since. She's a public figure who runs a prominent organization that has been lying and covering up what has been happening in Australia. If you want to be a public figure, this is what happens. I get it all the time. In fact, I was tweeting rather fervently at Jesse Singal, upset that he's lying and publishing that garbage. Although I'm not going to claim he's sicking his followers on me or anything like that. I just argue with him, and I'll argue with Claire. So why is it that Claire Lehman can sick her followers on me and then cry? You see, it's very much like that meme where you've got a feminist flinging human feces over a wall, and it says opinions, and the wall is the internet. And then when they fling back, she goes, help, help, misogyny. Claire, you're completely entitled to post all of your nonsense and say whatever you want about me. And I am, in fact, I would say obligated to then criticize you. When I said asterisk concentration camp, I never tweeted at you. I never said anything about you. I simply criticized what your country is doing. You decided to come at me with it, lying about what was going on and defending the state. I pushed back against you because Quillette's supposed to stand for freedom. But you are a manipulative liar now crying that you're being victimized by your own failures. I'll put it that way, failures. In the United States, we can expect things to start getting bad, to be honest. I mean, we're potentially looking at more lockdowns, but Florida seems to be doing a pretty good job. So I don't know where this goes, but I can say one of the reasons why I take particular issue with Claire and Jesse is, for one, full disclosure. Of course, it's a bit emotional. They targeted me personally and besmirched or impugned my honor. All of the news I put forward was based on legitimate sources. Saying concentration camp is nebulous and opinion. I didn't say that Australia was doing things they weren't doing. If you take issue with that, by all means, you can say, yo, it may be a little bad, but not that bad. Instead, they outright said, hot babes. Look at this. Claire just discovered there are hot babes in the Howard Springs concentration camp. So Tim Cast calls it. You could have said, it's not good what they're doing. And that's what Josh Zepps did. But then he comes out and he says they're international arrival bungalows. Look, I think the only adequate response to what's going on in Australia is to say it's bad, it's gotten worse, and if we don't all speak out now, it will get worse. But I will say one thing. I sympathize with Claire Lehman. I do. I mean, it can't be easy living in Australia, watching your government do this. Now we have stories where the Australian government allegedly is punishing a woman with a 2-week quarantine at this facility for lying to the police. And Claire probably knows. If she speaks out in Australia, they'll come to her home. It must be very difficult to be a coward living in Australia today. And for the people who are, well, I can only tell you this. Cowardice begets more strife. If you refuse to speak out and call it for what it is and criticize it, don't be surprised when it gets worse. If it started with international arrival bungalows and you did not come out and say enough, and Claire and Josh didn't, don't be surprised when then in 2 months' time, they're taking Indigenous people by army truck to these camps. When you then lie and try and make it seem like I'm arguing they're pointing guns at them, you are now actively defending the state. So you know what? Maybe it's wrong of me to imply that Claire Lehman's a coward. In fact, she may be very brave. She may have the intention of supporting the state in their efforts to detain people in these camps. And by doing so, she is now getting heavy criticism from people like me. In that case, it's a brave thing to do, knowing she'll face criticism in standing alongside the authoritarians of Australia. It is brave. Crooked, amoral, unethical, evil, but it's brave to do. Sure, it's just scumbaggery. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up tonight at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. It's a live show. Come hang out. We hope to see you there. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you then.